Hey everyone, I'm Shay,
And I'm Simon.
and you're listening to episode 3 of The Bucket.
Good day, sir. How are we?
I'm okay. I've had a bit of a cold this week. I haven't been feeling great, but I'm all right. How about you?
Physically, I'm okay. Actually, I had a good report. I don't know. We talked a little bit about this, but I had surgery. November 1st
Yeah.
will be a year. So
Mm.
almost a full year. And
God.
the last time, so I had major back surgery. I had a fusion. They took out a disc. They put in
Yeah.
some titanium. They put in some
Whoa.
screws.
You're a
And
Terminator.
it was really there's a whole long story about that. I don't have to get into it too much, but it was a second opinion surgeon. The first guy was like, you're looking at 12 to 18 months of being disabled effectively. The other guy was like, no, you'll go home the same day. Actually, we want you to walk a couple miles the same day that you get the surgery. I'm like, you're talking about a fusion, right? Like a real, like screws and stuff. He's like, yeah.
How
The
can
first
those
guy,
two be so far apart from each other?
there are reasons. The first guy was an orthopedic surgeon. The guy that did the surgery was a neurosurgeon. Number one, big difference. Um, the first guy wanted to do an ALIF, an anterior lumbar interbody fusion, which is they cut the stomach, they move the guts over, they go to the spine. Yeah, it gets a little gruesome for those who are squeamish. Great way to start the conversation though. But
It's all
they
right. It'll go
yeah.
up from here.
um they go to the spine, they take out the disc, they put in the titanium, they sew you back up, they flip you over. It's also called a 360 fusion. They flip you over and then they put the hardware in the back. And you're 5 to 7 days in the hospital recovering from that major. Um, the guy that did my surgery was one of like five in the world that does what he does. It was just stroke of luck or higher power or whatever you want to think that I ended up in his on his table. It was one of the greatest things that's ever happened. I mean, it's unfortunate that I had to have it in the first place, but
Mm.
I couldn't have had anybody better to do my surgery. And I've done like interviews with him, with his staff, his marketing department, the hospital. There's like articles written on me I could share if you wanted sometime. It's boring even
Yeah.
for me to read, honestly. But it's very
It's
long.
like,
Like it was like a 4 hour
yeah.
interview of, life before and after. But
What do all these words mean?
right. Uh, um, so he did a transforaminal. Foramina is the spine, the bones, right? And so trans is on the sides.
Hmm.
Transforaminal, lumbar spine, interbody fusion. Um, yeah, I went under. I woke up, no pain, and I sat there for like an hour while the nausea permeated from the being knocked out in the room, and then they wheeled me into the other room and they had me get out of the bed and stand up, and I walked in the hospital with, I mean, this is fresh out of surgery, and then they're like, all right, you're good to go home, make sure you walk at least a couple miles today. So I got home and I went for a
Wow.
walk, and it was 4 or 5 days of, there's some pain, a lot of swelling. Swelling lasted for a while, but I mean,
Mm.
no pain. Um, so I had the checkup. The last time I saw him was 6 months ago, and everything was going great. So he's like, "Come back at right about a year, and we'll do a CAT scan, and we'll be able to see if you're actually fused. If the bones, so fusion is when they take the disc out, they put the titanium in between to keep the space between the bones, right?
Mm.
And the hope is that the two bones, just like a broken bone, will fuse together and become one solid bone. So that's why they call it a fusion. And I am fully fused. So that's the best news. When I was leaving, I was like, so do I come back in another 6 months, a year? It's like, no, you graduated. You're done. I hope to never see
Wow.
you again. So
That that's amazing.
It is
Good
amazing.
bones.
Apparently, yeah.
Bad cartilage, good bones.
I'll take what I can get.
I mean, it's amazing that you remembered all the names of the things. I don't even
It,
remember what you just said.
well, I mean, it was part of my life for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I did a lot of research. There was a lot of like second opinion stuff, and I had other surgeries in 2016. But anyway, for now, it's over. I don't have to worry about it. There is a chance that the adjacent vertebrae may or discs might herniate in the future, just because you have two bones that are now fused together. The ones above and below tend to take the brunt now of that work. So the good thing is I lost 80 pounds in the last less than a year, so that
But
should help.
that wasn't just because of back surgery though.
The weight loss?
Yeah.
No, no,
Are
I
you
wanted
saying
to.
like the weight loss is good because of the back injuries,
The
not
back will be
due
better
to the
now. Well,
yeah,
there's less weight now putting stress and pressure on the spine. So
sure.
any
Yeah.
of that concern is reduced for, the other
That's also
discs
great.
herniating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, wow. Okay. You say that's like 10 years of your life having this sort of condition and trying to work out how to deal with it best, and now it's resolved.
Yeah. Yeah.
That that must be amazing.
Yeah. I never really thought of it so much like that because it's been an ongoing daily chronic thing for so long. And
Hmm.
now like the last year since the surgery, since maybe a month or two after the surgery, where I really felt like I can actually do things,
Hmm.
that it's been, it's not even like it's not in the forefront of my mind all the time. There's been
Yeah.
many, many times where I just could not make whatever plans just because I got a bad back. I got a bad back. I got a bad back. And
Gosh.
now I'm just living life. So,
What was it like? I mean, you say a bad back. I've suffered like a bad back. If I've twisted funny and it's painful, I guess. I don't know, like a tight muscle for a few days or something like that. Can you describe it a little bit?
yes, it's nothing like that. And that's the thing that I try to like people like, oh, your back hurt. My back never hurt. Um, because the
Mm,
way that, all right, you have two bones, and in between you have this squishy disc, and that with lots of reasons, disc degeneration, just getting old, arthritis, lack of hydration, which is a big, big, big thing.
mm,
That the disc gets dry and it crumbles,
yeah.
and the outer edge of it breaks, and the goo inside comes out, and it pushes against a nerve. So you have
Hmm.
these sciatic nerves running down your legs. So if you've ever had a toothache, really bad toothache, imagine that
Yeah.
in half of your body. So that's what I try to, because it's a nerve that is being pressed upon, and there's nothing that I could do to twist to get that. It was just always like that. So sleeping was nearly impossible. Standing, laying down. I mean, it was like you just go from wherever you can feel comfortable to another place you could feel comfortable, and try not to take
Mm,
too many drugs along the way, because you have to, because it's pain. It's, I mean, it's that real of pain,
yeah.
um, but there's also the concern of taking drugs, right? So
No, that sounds really rough. But you're saying now that that's like completely out of the way.
yeah,
I mean, that's kind of like miraculous, isn't it?
yeah. That's why I said higher power. Um, this guy, the what he did was amazing. So yeah, I had limited, like I was restricted on some activities. The first few months they say no BLT, which is bend, lift, twist, no doing any of that stuff.
Oh, I thought you were going to say no bacon, lettuce,
Thank
tomato. That would have
God.
been really disappointing.
Yeah, right. Forget the surgery, man. I'll just take a wheelchair and a BLT.
No.
um, no bend, lift, twist, and then like I couldn't carry anything more than 5 pounds or 10 pounds, which I did anyway. Um, I know that sounds whatever,
But
but
you
I
survived.
I survived. I did all right. The only restrictions I had in the last 6 months was no like jumping, running. Steven and I met, and he was like, "Let's go rock climbing." I'm like, I can't do rock climbing. No jostling of the spine, basically, like nothing that's going to, you know, push the
Yeah.
spine up and down at all. But now I have no
Oh, use
restrictions. I can
spines. No horsing around. That's great. No restrictions. So
no
you can
restrictions.
do whatever. You can go rock climbing now with Steven. Hear that, Steven? He's ready.
Where's Steven? He's in Disney
I
World, I
don't
think.
know.
Right? What's
Yeah.
going on here? And
I
I'm
think he's
not
gone to
Simon,
the
by the
only
way.
place in Florida that is like not been
Open.
destroyed.
I'm sure he'll have some interesting stories, pictures to tell us. Disney was closed for a couple of days, and
Really?
my dad sent me pictures. That I my dad's this my dad's kind of funny. He's very much a conspiracy theorist. So he's like, no, Disney's destroyed. They're saying it might never reopen, and he's sending me these pictures of like the castle flooded like halfway up. I'm like, Dad, that's AI. Come on, you're smarter than this. And
Is he using Facebook by any chance?
I don't know what he uses. My dad's funny. My dad's he's an old developer actually. He started in the '70s. It's
Mm.
another whole thing. Actually, it's one of our things to talk about at some point. I started teaching him Laravel earlier this year, so maybe on a future episode we can
We should do
not
it right
have him
now.
on. No, no, that's all right. It's enough for
Soon
one
enough, he's
day,
got conspiracy theories about
right?
Disneyland being
I thought it
underwater.
was real.
Oh, which one is it? I keep saying the wrong one. I think I did this last week. Is it Disney World or I don't know.
Yeah, Disney World is in Florida. Disneyland is
Right.
in California.
Yeah, I'll never remember that. Like,
Well, the way in my mind, it's like it started in Florida. That's where the home
mm,
of the Walt Disney was and all that stuff. Um, and so like he built his whole world there, and then they just kind of subsidized this other, not subsidized, but whatever
yeah, yeah,
subsidiary,
yeah,
this other
yeah.
place in California. And they're like, it's just a land where whatever. But
Cool.
yeah. How about you? How's your week been? Besides being sick,
Yeah, I mean, it's just a cold, but it's been busy.
that's so
Uh,
British. It's just a
don't
cold.
worry about me. I'll be fine. Yeah.
Right?
Uh, yeah. Um, yeah. No, I mean, I haven't felt great. Like there was a couple of days where I was just, when you're like staring at the screen and your brain just doesn't want to like get into the right gear and move forward. And I'm just like, what am I doing? I don't know. And then you get this like panic because I'm like, I need to do so many things and I'm not doing any of them because like my brain's just not working. And then I'm like stressing over all of this stuff. That's not. So then
I
I'm
know that
like,
feeling.
I've got to somehow, I need to get better so that I can just do stuff. It's like, yeah, um, that's freelancing, which is like it's a little bit easier when you're in a employment if your employer is okay with you taking a sick day every so often. But yeah, other than that, I mean, yeah, just like the work is good. Made some progress on one of the projects that I'm working on, which is really fun project actually. So it's doing some video stuff, and it's a SaaS application. Um, and I'm working on a piece of like actually doing video uploading, which doesn't sound that complicated, and it's really not actually nowadays. I mean, I kind of had this in my mind that this was going to be painful, but we're sort of dealing with these relatively small video files as well. Just like let's get those uploaded to S3, and I'm sort of I don't know how this is going to go. I'll just like dive in and make a start. And I'm using Filament for one part of it, and Filament just makes it so damn easy to do that.
It's a
I mean,
little
I
scary,
was just like,
actually.
what? I just put a file uploader and I say I wanted to store the files in S3 and it just does it. And then I was like, okay, I need to just test this locally. I don't want to like hit S3 that like even a staging bucket, I don't want to hit the real service because it's going to be slower and it's going to incur some cost, blah, blah, blah. So I need a service that I can run locally that looks like S3, can like be interacted with as if it was the S3 API. So kind of S3 compatible API. And it turns out, I didn't even know this was the thing, but it turns out that there's a tool called MinIO or Minio, I don't know how people say it, which is an open source and you can just install it on your local machine freely. And it's used for lots of things. I think they're kind of pushing for, AI, and you store all your big AI files in it. But if you install it on your local machine, it's just an S3 compatible API that you're running locally. So it stands up its own little service, like a web service. And you can use, Laravel's file adapters. What is fly system underneath that I think it uses, right? And it will just connect to it as if it was S3. And the uploads obviously are instantaneous because it's just like copying it from one part of your system to another. And yeah, it's great. I was like, amazing. And even better than that, if you've got Laravel Herd Pro, it's available in Herd Pro to just like set up. So it was literally, I think, about 3 clicks to install, which was amazing. I was like,
I just got Herd Pro yesterday or the day before. I've been on Herd for a while, but I'm like, I don't know. And then I don't remember what I was doing. Something where it was like, oh, it was because I don't run Redis locally. So I was like, I could do brew Redis or something. And then, well, I just like this. I'm running right now. I'm running a 2019 or 2020 Intel, the last Intel Apple MacBook Pro,
oof,
whatever.
sorry.
Yeah, I know. Like seriously, I spent $4,000 on a 64 gigs of RAM. It kind of pisses me off, but um, I got it, and then they announced the M1. I'm like, dude, if I would have waited 6 months, But anyway, I just wiped everything on this computer completely down to nothing, and so I'm like, I don't even have Brew installed, and I'd really like to not install Brew if I can get away with it. So I'm like, let's go with Herd Pro and got Redis. 2 clicks, like you said. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, it was great. Because you've mentioned that, like, I've got this thing with, do you remember Craig who, it was one of the guys I was staying with, Laracon, Craig Anderson, Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't think of a way to describe him. He's like just a good looking, long haired dude, Um, that probably doesn't help you. But if you,
It
yeah,
does in other ways, but
I've got this thing with him about uh, reinstalling your Mac from scratch because he's like, I always start from scratch, always.
what
And
do you like every day or?
yeah, when there's like a new, if he's getting a new Mac, right?
Yeah.
He won't just like do the whatever
Import the
the sync
settings
tool
or
is. Yeah, like there's the Apple migration assistant thing, which will move everything over for you, and it'll just be like your old Mac, but on new hardware. Which I'm actually massively in favor of. But he's like, no, I just start fresh and it feels nice and it's perfect. And I'm always like, why? This, like, you're spending so much time doing all of this stuff. And this is why I'm like, I'm going to have the same fight with you over this. I could see it. Why would you go to all of that trouble?
Well, let me ask you this. I can't remember what settings do you keep? What does it bring everything like all of your apps or what is
It's
it?
not settings, it's the lot. Everything just like goes onto
Oh.
your new machine. And it's like all in the same shape and everything. I mean, the only thing that I bumped into that I will say is a bit of a pain is that some apps that require like licenses, they'll when you open them for the first time on the new machine, they'll go, this is already activated on another Mac, and you've only got one seat available.
Yeah.
So you need to somehow
Deactivate.
deactivate it from
Yeah.
that old one. And some apps don't allow like a remote deactivation of the license that's in use on the other machine. So if you've already wiped the machine and you didn't deactivate it, you're kind of stuffed. But thankfully nowadays most apps are like, oh yeah, just detach the license from that machine and kind of then it's free
Online
to
or something.
reuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, through like their website or something. That is about the only thing that's kind of ever really plagued me with it. No, that's not a big issue at all. But I'm just like, if I had to think about going through, all of the stuff that I need, like even things like SSH keys changing. Some people might say this is really actually a good thing that they change, but I don't know. I think if you're with the machine and you like the old machine and you wipe it straight away, everything's gone, right? So
Mhm.
any like security concerns you might have are dealt with immediately. From my perspective, I can just start working on my new machine as soon as it's finished that migration. Not like I have now unknown amount of time to like set it up.
So I think this is a like a I all right, I'll say it this way. I'm guessing you're probably better at organizing your files and when you download
No,
things. Because I just feel like I have so much bloat crap that I just like whatever. I've got a couple terabytes here or a terabyte, and it's like, I my computer sped up so much just by doing a fresh install of Mac OS, and like things that I didn't even think were slow before, like way faster. And I didn't even realize that would be, an effect of this.
but
And
you're
I just
talking about staying on the same Mac and just doing a fresh install.
correct, but I have another Mac I could have pulled the settings from or the whatever. I could have done the import.
Yeah, I mean, just so that you're doing like an apples to apples comparison there, what you're talking about isn't like I bought better hardware and I've started
Correct.
from scratch on that, which, like I'd expect that to be faster. When I moved to this Mac, obviously, I went from an M1 to an M3. I'm like,
So you're
it
just
better,
you're just
it better
keeping
be
all your
faster.
crap with you. Right. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So you're throwing more hardware at the problem. I'm like same hardware and it's way better by just since like I just feel lighter, thinner, like streamlined. It's like I'm only going to and like like I said, I had Brew and I had all these other things with Brew installed that I never like.
Mm.
I don't even know what's in the cellar and the kegs and all. Like I don't even look in there, right? And there are like tools to use that, but it's like every time I touch any of that, everything crashes at some point. I have to redo everything anyway, so it's like just wipe it all. I think that's why I did it in the first place. I'm like, I don't know. I'm almost out of storage here. There's nothing I really need to keep here. Just blow it all away. Start from
Mm.
scratch. You know?
I just, yeah, I get it. It's like the moving house opportunity, right? When you've got to pack everything up and you finally look at all of this stuff that you've kept for years that you don't actually use on a day-to-day basis, and you go, do I need this? Nah. Do I need that? Nah. And it's a great opportunity to clear house, but I just don't feel the same way about my computer. It's the same. I don't do it with like Gmail or anything either. I don't really go through those and go, I need to clean this up because there are 10,000 unread emails. I'm just like, it's there. If I need it, I can search for it. It's like, if it's in the same state as it was, I'm definitely not going to miss anything because
Yeah.
I accidentally erased it, and forgot that I needed to port it over.
Yeah, I bad with that. I don't delete. I will go through like once in a while, once a year probably. I'll just say mark all as read just to
Yeah.
zero
Oh
out
no.
the
You're killing me.
right.
Oh god.
And I do once in a while. I'll just look through like, man, why do I keep getting emails from Redfin or something I signed up
Yeah.
3 years ago? And it's like just unsubscribe and like just go through and like unsubscribe. It just take 10 minutes. And it sounds so painful, and it really is actually when you're doing it. But then it's like, all right, just 10
Mm.
minutes, and I got rid of like 20 things. So, um, Yeah, that's I don't know how to feel about that. I think if I'm still on the i9, so like I do have the Mac Studio though, and that's an M. I think it's an M, at least an M2. I think it's an M3 though.
Yeah.
I got it last year, so that's a great computer. But still, I can't get DaVinci Resolve to not crash, which is like the strangest thing. Yeah, we talked about that
Uh,
momentarily. Um, I don't know why. Like I've never had success with, and I would think of all things, the new Mac Studio. It was brand new at the time, brand new, and I tried it, and it would just crash. So I'm like, I'll just stick with whatever I use, ScreenFlow or something.
I haven't had any problems with it. Although saying that, I actually don't know if I've tried to open DaVinci on the M3. I had it on the M1 and it was okay, but it would creak a little bit when I was like processing videos stuff. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I want to open it right now, just in case it
Yeah,
crashes something.
right. No, no, just wait. You can do it after. No problem.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, interestingly, and I haven't really delved into it. You were talking about Minio. I call it Minio. Let's
yeah.
just agree, Minio, right?
Have you used it?
I've not. I've seen it over the years. It's been around for a while. I've seen a lot of other. I think I might have touched it once several years ago. But I just was like, while you were talking, I was looking at Herd and I saw it there as a service. So that's I probably will next time I need to do S3 stuff. Do you have to change any configuration inside your app?
Yeah. You give it the M for what it spews out. You know, like Herd will give you the M keys that you need. Um, and as long as you just do
Oh,
that
okay.
locally,
Okay.
obviously, then it's like going to use that instead of the real S3 token and
That's beautiful.
secret and whatever else. Yeah, it's really good. And everything just like works. It was amazing. Um, yeah, the thing that like threw me off at first was their website is just all about how it's for like AI models and training data, and I was just like, huh? This doesn't feel right at all. And you just cut through all of that kind of, I don't know, trendy noise right now, and it's literally just it's an S3
This
compatible
this is what I'm
file.
doing right now. Like really, I need to look at this actually. Um, AI. Speaking of AI,
Ugh.
oh well, I was gonna say there's something that I just started looking at a new project, and one of the things they wanted me to install for their tests to work was Mock Stripe or Stripe Mock. Have you seen this?
Nah.
You know Stripe, I'm guessing.
Do know Stripe,
Um,
mock Stripe.
yeah, it's a local
Is
Stripe.
this like a Stripe's own first party something?
It's like Minio, but for Stripe. So it's a service that it just operates on whatever port, and so you hit that, you localhost port 11277 or whatever it is, and
What?
yeah, you can do all of your tests against this mock Stripe thing. Yeah, it's running right now on my machine actually because I just ran the
It's the
test.
first party package that they built in
Yeah,
Go.
Stripe mock.
Wicked.
Yep, and you can brew install, but I chose not to. I did. I'm like, I will install Go before I install Brew again, if I can, as long as I can.
Ah,
Yeah. So
ah,
kind of cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah. I
Marcel,
don't know how long it's
Team
been
Beyond
around.
Code, they need to like get that in Herd
Whoa.
Pro as well.
I don't think it would be that hard. I mean, you do have to have. Well, I don't know. I don't know how the dependencies on Go or Brew. I don't know. I don't
It's
know how
just
this works.
installing a binary now.
Right.
It,
That's what I'm
like
thinking.
Herd, what Herd's doing is just going, oh, I can, like
Put
install
it in
this
my own.
service and then just configure it. Like it's just managing spinning up the process and making sure that it runs on the system's boot up or whatever, on Herd's boot up. I guess. I don't really know. So, but
Marcel, get on it.
do it, man. I'll pay for that.
Yeah. I
um,
mean,
I already did.
right. Get to work.
I forgot. Nice.
So yeah, something to look into. Maybe we'll do links
What are
or
you
something.
using it
And
for?
yeah, just started looking at this new project. We're dating at the moment. We're seeing if we want to hold hands even. So I just did a like a composer install, and I'm going through some code and just seeing. I'm just trying to get all the tests to pass. So this was part of the setup, and so I haven't even looked at the code yet. I'm just trying to get the tests to pass. These all pass. I've got some other issues, but um, uh, I was like, why are so many things failing? And I saw it was all Stripe related, and I was like, oh, I remember in the README. Let's go to the. There was a link to this Stripe mock thing, so poked around for a minute and got it working. And actually, there's another app that I'm working on for. So my son's in the Boy Scouts, and I'm building a like a payment gateway for parents to be able to pay for different things. And right now, it's just you just text a guy, "Hey, take it out of this account," or "Hey, I gave you a check," and they don't even write in the memo section of the check what it's for. So it's like it's all just some guy's got to remember what 30 different parents said. So I'm like, we can make this a little better, you know? So I'm thinking about using the Stripe mock for that specifically because I'm playing with that code right now. So yeah,
That's that's very cool. I wish this had existed many years ago.
I don't know how
That
old
would have
it
been.
is. I wonder what, like, is it on GitHub
It
or something?
actually it does. There's one bit here that says it's 6, 7 years ago. So I've just been completely oblivious to that.
Didn't know about it. Yeah. Yeah. So looking at their 7 years ago, the license was on their GitHub. Other things were like, oh, they did a Docker ignore 6 years ago. VS Code extension something 5 years ago. So it's been
Yeah,
around.
that's wild. I don't know how I've never heard of that before.
I do because there's a lot of things that are happening in our world and we have to pay attention to a lot of things all the time.
I know, but like I've been using Stripe for ages. Um, I just feel like they've never surfaced that in the documentation, or not very well. Or maybe I just don't read the documentation properly. That's the You just go like, what's the API? What's the structure of this data object? I don't, and I just look for the bit that I need at the time rather than actually like, welcome to the Stripe documentation.
I feel like those are blinders we all have, right? I think that there's like, I definitely do that. I definitely, especially if it's something I've done for so long or have used so many times, and it's like, and then you realize after so long, like I'm only using 2% of whatever it is, and it's like, look at all of this stuff that I have to invest all this time and energy into learning something old again. And it's like you
Yeah,
weigh it out. What do I actually gain from doing this? Is what I'm using working? And then you go for an interview or you look at a project for somebody, and it's like they're using some like this Millie search. Good example. This project I'm working on now. I never touched Millie search. I never needed to touch Millie search. I never had an opportunity to like besides like just doing Laravel new Millie search and trying to just play around with it. Which I've determined most of the time, like you don't really get a good grasp on things unless like you need a good like use case scenario at least to start working on something. If you're just
yeah,
doing it to do it to play with the library, that's not as good as having something to apply. So I'm like, well, if anybody ever needs it, then I'll look into it. Now somebody needs it and they're like, oh, you don't know Millie search? I'm like, I've used Scout, I've used, Algolia or whatever, but and I think they're probably the same or similar, but yeah.
yeah. I've got like the Homer Simpson brain problem. If I put one thing in, another thing just kind of pops right back out.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's these core things. I need to hold on to these core things. I don't want to let any one of these go. And learning new stuff, like whole new things. I was looking at somebody posted a video of some new release or some new upcoming feature for Angular. I'm like, I don't know why it drew my attention. I've never used Angular. I've never shown really any interest in Angular, but it was like showing off this feature which honestly, I watched the video from start to finish twice because I couldn't understand. Like, wait, what is the point of this thing that they're trying to show me? You know, it was like the UI all starts off grayed out, and they called it incremental something. I can't remember. I mean, this is how. Anyway, that's a side comment. The the point was that the video just did not do a good enough job for somebody who was like brand new to this thing. It was like, maybe I shouldn't have been watching it in the first place because I don't really care. But it was like also, in order to understand that, I've got to go like like come back out of it for another level. I'm just kind of like, what is Angular? What what are they trying to solve? What's the problem that they're trying to solve with this feature? And because I just lacked that context about it, I couldn't really get any value from the content that was put out. And it got me thinking, like, actually, that's a really important lesson for everybody, hopefully, around what you're putting out in front of people. Especially if it's in like a general forum, where anybody could be sort of following you or whatever, make sure that you give at least just enough context to make it like really useful for as many people as possible. I know that's not always going to be doable, but it's just like, I just have no reason to even investigate Angular off the back of this. But the other side of it, as I'm saying, is like, I just don't have the time and the headspace. It looks cool. Actually, like, I don't know what it's doing. I don't know why they've tried to solve whatever problem it is they're trying to solve. But it does look cool. It sounds like they've done something interesting that I've not really seen anybody else try and solve before. And, it's like, I just don't have the headspace to figure that out. There's just too much new stuff going on everywhere. And I think, like, I'm at the point now, actually, I'm talking myself into it. I need to just unfollow the person who I was following. Who really like showed that stuff, because it's just like, now I'm thinking, like, is their content even relevant to me? It's not somebody I know either. It's like, just, I've seen them posting some other stuff at some point in the past, and it's been like, oh, that's interesting, follow. And then now this has come up, and I'm like, maybe I should unfollow because this is just distraction. Like, that's what it ended up being. I think it was like an 8-minute video or something. I watched it twice, so I've wasted like 20 minutes now. And this time talking about it, oh my gosh. So I'm just like, this is a complete distraction from the stuff that I actually care about.
I mean, freelancer slash entrepreneurial minded as we are or tend to be, I think sometimes, and I would venture to think even Laravel itself came from the idea like similar tools exist in other languages. Let's bring them over to this community, this language, etc. So when you see something that somebody's doing that's cool and it's not in our community, it's a good opportunity for us to say, hey, let's bring that over here. And maybe there's a way to
Yeah.
capitalize or at least,
Yeah.
just improve the community. So maybe that's part of why you saw something cool, but it was like so far out that it was hard to even wrap your head around what they were even
Yeah.
doing, maybe in the first place.
Absolutely.
I felt the same way though recently with AI, and I think that's we got a little time here.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Olama?
No.
Not the president.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We said we weren't going to talk politics. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So I have had this kind of guilty feeling for the last year, maybe two, of not knowing AI enough to be able to talk about it. And as a developer, I think that I should, whether other people feel the same or not. And I think not many people have really shined the light into our community, the Laravel community. There's been some things. There's been a couple talks at Laracon this year. I don't remember if last year there was or not. One of my old bosses and good friends, Al Nutile, which I hope to have on the show soon, Um, he's writing a book. It's he's still writing it. I bought it like the day it came out, and he keeps adding more chapters to it. And I thought this was going to be a good primer for me to get into it because he pushes videos out. He has YouTube videos, but he's just talking so far over my head about like database vectoring and seeding, and I'm like, I don't even know where to begin with any of this stuff. And I think that I bought the book 3 weeks ago. I think this last week I finally started digging into it, and I finally started to kind of see how things work, and that definitely had helped me um, start to wrap my head around things. And as soon as I did, I called my dad and I did a screen share, and I'm like, check this out. Oh, llama. So like you've heard of llama this and llama that. Everything's a llama, LLMs and all this, like what I had no idea what Olama versus Llama versus Lang chain, like all these different, I have no idea what you're even talking about, but
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I will educate you. So if you go to Olama, OLLAMA.com, and just go to download and then download to your computer, what it will do is install a large language model onto your machine that, while it's running, serves up a REST API endpoint that you can now hit instead of OpenAI or Claude or whatever. Additionally, there are other models. Models are like just like libraries of how it can process language. Okay, that's what my understanding is. I'm sure there's a much better, more eloquent way of saying that, but in my mind, these are like different ways that it can, so you could ask one model a question, get a different answer than another model, and how it like
Sure.
you can get deep into like how it indexes the vectors in its own database and blah blah blah. And I've not gone too far down that rabbit hole yet. I did start scratching the surface just the other day.
Right.
But while this is running, in the book that Al is writing, he's like, well, now we have this endpoint. It's localhost / whatever port 11.4, whatever it is, that you can now use the HTTP facade in Laravel to hit, and you can return results from that. And now we can teach for free instead of using the OpenAI, because everybody charges money now if you want to use their REST API, right? So now you can learn some basic AI LLM concepts for free, and just start wrapping your head around some things. And what's really cool is, you get into this a couple of chapters, and there's these things called, it's a really dumb, and I've heard other people say this too, I'm not the only one to think this, it's really dumb, but they call it tools or functions, which is like so generic in general. But what it means is, and you can instruct the model, and you can say, look, I've got this, I'm defining this tool called weather. I'm just saying this is a weather tool. Okay. And you can say, hey, model, hey, whatever, whenever I talk about the weather, I want you to use this tool. And inside of that, you can do, you can return a function that goes off and hits some third-party API that scrapes your data from your database. You can do an eloquent query and give it like a bunch of context of things. So now you can have AI crawling your actual data. You can have so like one of the first examples that I used was like, I found some free weather API, and it was like, all right, given my zip code, should I wear a coat today? So that's not just asking what is the temperature. It is, letting it decide something for me. So it hit the API, and it came back at 73 point, it's like 25 Celsius, 74 degrees, whatever. And it's like, based on the current temperature of 74, that's the average room temperature in most places in the world. I would say you don't need to wear a coat if you went out today. And it was like, that's
cool.
That's pretty cool. And it's like, now, and then there's like, now I'm getting a little deeper into it, and I'm watching like, there's a thing called Lang chain, which Al talks about a lot. It's the Python like library for consuming all these things. It's got more stars than Laravel has, and it's just like a little library. Huge, huge, huge. And there's a guy that
Crazy.
created it or is working on it. I forget his name. I forget his name, but he's showing how you can go. There's two kind of concepts with AI. One is like asking it a single question, and another is like in a conversation. So the conversation, all it does is it takes whatever your previous question and its own responses, and it pushes that up as like a single kind of question. So it's like, given all
Mm.
of this context of what we've already talked about, let me ask you this other. That's how you can say, like, with OpenAI, you can say, give me a 500 word whatever based on whatever, and then it gives you the response, and it's like, all right, make it funnier. All you have to do is say make it
Yeah.
funnier because it takes its own context, right? Um, so like you can take that so many layers deep into you can take it so many layers deep and say, scrape all of the documents in this folder. And now that you've scraped them all, I'm asking a specific question. Now I want you to take that result and ask a question of, well, based on the initial question, get rid of the ones that are not relevant to your, and it's like you're giving it all this context. You are a teaching like a teacher, and you're grading papers, and these are the papers, and based on the initial question, you have to give it a pass or fail. If it fails, I want you to remove it from the subset. Now I have a passing set of documents that relate back to the first question. I can take that into another whole series of questioning, and so it's
Yeah.
like bouncing it through all it's like kind of cool. I'm kind of like, some things are starting to connect for me. So
It
I
sounds really, really powerful stuff.
interesting because the more I'm learning about it, the less magic there is here. And I think that's, everybody is saying how magical like AI is changing. It's really just like it's just a smarter way of looking at
Mm.
the database, the stuff that's in the database, and it scores things, and it's like how far away from, it's like a distance
Yeah. The
vector
vectors.
distance,
Yeah.
it's just a smart way of doing it. It's not that magical, but it is magical. I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, I think the way that I've sort of seen people describe it is this like this emergent thing. It's like we were trying to solve one problem, and in the midst of doing that, we kind of stumbled on that actually, I kind of speak to this thing. I can write longer messages to it, give it loads of extra words as context, and because of the way that the prediction model then works against the vectors of those words, the responses look like intelligence. It looks like it's responding to your query with useful information, which it is super interesting. Like I have massive gripes with even just the use of the label AI, because it's not intelligence at all. Uh, uh, Not to sidetrack from what you're saying, because I think this is super interesting. I need to look into the Olama thing. I'd be keen to see if it was like, I don't know if you're allowed to use it on like a production application, or if there's like different licensing for the models that are available.
No, yeah, no. So that's one thing. It's open source, and you can install it on Linux. You can put it inside of your box, in a production box, and
Yeah.
run these things for real against production data.
And it's working on like ordinary hardware. You don't need like super mega GPUs to do it.
The better your hardware, the better it is, and it depends on which
Like
model.
faster.
Yeah, I've seen, and I didn't even think about that initially. Even on my old Intel i9, whatever, 64 gigs of RAM. Damn it, I paid for it. Uh, this is in
Gotta get that
2019,
RAM.
man.
Yeah. I
um,
don't think I've even got 64 gigs of RAM in this
with the
machine.
M chips, you don't need it. You don't.
Crazy.
16 is more than enough, honestly. But I
I've
hear
got
my fan right now,
36.
and I've got the silence, whatever it's called, the noise canceling on my.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
but I saw a video of this guy, showing Olama, and he was on like a 2015 MacBook Pro, and it was crawling,
Yeah,
just asking, why is the sky blue? You know? So
that's,
there's a performance advantage with
yeah,
better hardware.
that's cool. The thing that I've always like, whenever I think like, oh, I want to do some AI stuff, I'm thinking uh, that it's either like a really simple thing, and I know that Open, because I did a little bit with the Open AI API, and I know that they've got function calling. So that came out sometime last year, because I remember playing around with that at the time. And actually, there's somebody, it's TJ Miller, who's created this package um, for like interacting with lots of different AI APIs. What's the name of it? Prism, I think it is now, but it was going to
That's
be
yeah, I've
called
been
something
playing with that.
else.
It was Sparkle and then
Yeah.
Prism. Yeah.
So he asked me, he reached out to me a while ago and asked me for some input on some of the stuff on when it was Sparkle. And I gave him a load of feedback. And I said to him, basically, I think if you can do the function calling stuff and you come up with a nice, like, consistent API across the different providers for that, that's going to be killer. Because if you make it really easy to like create these and what you've called tools, which, yeah, I think tools is probably the better word because it's slightly less ambiguous, um, where you can describe to the AI service like that it's got something it can use that you have created for it to use in certain scenarios, and it can figure out that it can use it in the right kinds of queries, and it does use it reliably, then that's super, super interesting for the kind of applications you can build. But even that only goes so far, right? So it's like, if I, let's say I'm, let's say I'm doing this video thing now, right? Client. And I wanted to do, uh, let's go crazy, right? Let's say I wanted to do, um, training a model of my own based on video clips of a person, just like straight on profile video of them talking to the camera, so that they could have like a virtual double, we could then say, right, tell the AI to create another video off the training data that it uses their voice and it uses their like visage to speak as if it was them, but it's not actually them. But then you end up creating this video that looks exactly like the person, but it's doing and saying things completely that they've never done or said. Like that is in theory possible right now with all of this stuff. But I've seen there are a couple of services actually that I've seen and I've been playing around with that do it, but they don't have APIs. So like, how do you achieve that end result if they're not providing a way for you to use their service? And then I start going down the rabbit hole of, how do I find an appropriate model? How do I use that model? Or how do I like train it? Do I need to do something with vectors and vector databases or not? There's just like loads and loads of questions. I just don't even have time to think about figuring out where to start finding the answers to some of that stuff. I mean, the stupid thing is kind of ironic. I'm asking AI, like, how do I do this?
How do you
It's
work?
like, it's like my, what else is the phone? I don't know. Oh, in like this. It's like, the AI kind of responds with effectively like, I don't know, man. It's too new. It's just like, how can you not know anything about yourself or like, yeah, your siblings in the AI
Do
world?
we ever know about ourselves truly?
Yeah, that's true.
Gives you some ambiguous.
It's super meta. Um, uh, it it's just it feels, even for somebody, I don't think I'm super smart. I'm not even smart. Let's just say, and but I do know like a little bit of technical stuff. I can read documentation. I can figure things out. I look at this space, and for some reason, it's just run away so fast. and it's become super intractable. You know, like I can't. I end up on this like hugging face, which I'm like, what's hugging face? It's just an emoji. But no, it's this place where loads of people are like sharing models and running models, and like there's like a cloud service there, and there's like it's something of like a GitHub, but not really a GitHub, and it's there's loads of activity going on over there, and people are fine. I think Peter Levels put me onto it once, just by some of the stuff that he was tweeting about. It's like, where can you find the models that do things like his photo AI?
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, there's literally no guidance here about what to do. And I just like, I look at it and I'm like, no. And I just close the tab again. Go back to what I was doing, like my basic. I'm just going to write some PHP because I know that I'm kind of good at that. And then cry myself to sleep at night because I'm not, up to speed with all of the technology.
I would recommend starting with Al's book. I think that I don't think it's perfect. I think that there are, there it was enough to get me started on things though. Just the first few chapters got
Yeah.
my eyes to kind of open uh to how this kind of stuff works. He does talk about
Mm,
or at least he had a video on it, like getting a Postgres database set up, and because
mm,
that can do some vector stuff. And there's someone created a package for vectors against Postgres. So he even showed in a video, this is not in the book, but how to he has a folder with all these PDFs in it, and he's like, get for each file in the folder, break down all of the PDFs into chunks, and it's like the chunk size kind of matters. And then it
right.
inserts each chunk into the database, and it gives it some kind of score. Like there's a vector facade or something that just adds it into the database, and you can start to see how these things start to work. It goes from this totally ambiguous, abstract thing to like, all right, I can now, and this is just a week into it, I can now start to see how this stuff actually is working. I didn't spend that much time on
Mm,
it, to be honest.
that's cool.
I would recommend it. I would definitely recommend. Here's a plug for Al's book. Al's super smart. He was my boss at Pfizer. I mean, so that tells you
Yeah.
something. Um,
Okay.
he's a good guy.
He
He's
knows
a
what
good
he's
guy.
doing. Yeah.
He does, a little too much. I think his problem is like sharing the knowledge, because he, like you were saying before, like there's not enough context here for me to understand really what you're saying. But I think
Mm,
that I might start using my YouTube channel to dumb down some of the things that I've learned, just the basics here, and
yeah.
start going over, because even what was his name, Colin from Vehicle, had the talk at
Mm,
Laracon this year,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
watched it a few times, and I was like, I just don't know what you're saying. I just don't know.
I I need to watch that one again because I remember thinking at the time he was going through it, I was like, that's actually unlocked something. I understand the meaning here, and the fact that they even like there's language that's being used that's like, oh, it's just you just mean this, and I can associate it with something I already know. Is like immensely helpful to the one, on the one hand, but it also like confuses the heck out of me. Like, why are people being exclusionary by creating this whole new language when we're kind of in adjacent spaces? I don't, maybe I'm missing something there, but it just feels like we've got our toys over here and we're going to keep them to ourselves and we're going to try and like defend this castle of tricks and puzzles from anybody else. You'd like have to get your big ladder and scale the wall to kind of get in, figure it out. Uh, which I kind of hope. I don't think the PHP community, and certainly not the Laravel community, is like that. I think that also is kind of a contrast for me, where it's like trying to be intentionally approachable and like helping people to onboard into it rather than being like, oh, you don't know this stuff. Sorry, bye.
Right.
um, which is maybe that's not how people are in that space, but that's the feeling that I get when I kind of try and approach it, and I go into some of the discords and see like it. I mean, it's just like meme stuff going through, and how do you even get started in something like this? Um, so that sounds really good. I think I need to give Al's book a go. Um, and I think that's a good lesson. Like if you're that person who can bridge like the gap between two or like ecosystems or communities, you've got a really good opportunity to share what you're learning and or what um, and make something that could earn you some money potentially if that's what you want to do out of that, because you now can be like a lightning rod for people to go from one side to the other, which is a really cool opportunity.
I think so. I've been, like the YouTube channel. I haven't posted anything really in a year or
Mm,
so for a number of reasons. I haven't felt so sure or confident in any subject that would fit all these different criteria I have for, wanting, like, nothing got me excited to do, until I started thinking about this. So I think that number one, the best way to learn something is to try to teach it to somebody. So I think I will get better with this by just trying to teach it for basics, just the basics. And I'm
mm,
thinking that it should be a series, and I'm thinking that it should be like a number of short, easy to digest videos, just getting the basics kind of going in your own mind, in your own space, and just understanding the concepts fundamentally and take it from there. Because like we were saying before, if you just jump right into something and there's no context there, you're going to lose half the people or more. But if you can say, look, I know I'm starting on something a little bit more advanced, go check out these other videos that I've done to try to catch up to this. I think that's a huge
yeah.
advantage for everybody involved. So um, I think that's probably a really dumb thing to say because it's obvious, but I said it anyway.
I think you should definitely do that. I think like also, I watched quite a few of your videos and I really like your style and the way that you convey information is like really clear. So I would definitely watch the heck out of those. Yeah, no, you should be proud. It's very good. That's a skill, not everybody has that. I always think like I think I did it yesterday. I'm gonna record something, because I feel like and then I'm like, I need to plan this out, and then I need to spend more time doing it, and I bottle it, and I just decide I'm not gonna do it. Whereas it feels like you like really made the effort to do that, and then you come, the delivery is right because of that. So if you do that with this sort of stuff as well, that would be great. I look forward to that. But I was going to say, especially if you can do it from you know I'm a Laravel developer and I'm kind of making the association between these things, or like breaking it down into terms that somebody who maybe only knows like PHP Laravel things. And, because this is a completely different world in terms of all of the stuff that's going on. Like, for the longest time, I was like, what the heck is a vector? I mean, I know what a vector is in general, like, sciencey
Yeah,
terms,
right.
but like, you're talking about it in this very specific context. And like, do you know what you mean? And I think people just like bandy these words around and they don't really fully understand it, but somehow they're making use of it, and they're sort of figuring out how to do stuff. And I'm there like, I just need to understand the basics first, please. I can't use this until I know what a vector is. Um, because like I don't even know whether it's the right thing to use for the problem that I've got at hand. That's kind of how I approach things. I think maybe that's a bit too. I need to just dive in and start mucking around. But
So, and I think that, so there's like two kind of principles in my mind. I think a lot of the videos that I've done before, a lot where, I mean, the beginnings were native PHP where I knew nothing. I was just like reading your docs live and like
mm,
implementing, oh, look at this function I can add on, and look at this that I can add on. And
yeah,
um, so there's like this, there's some content that I think does well where I'm just like, I'm learning live on camera. That's all that it is. I'm just learning with a camera on and recording my screen versus like, for example, I did like a AWS for Dummies kind of like setting up your IAM and your getting S3 your bucket set up. And um I did some research. I planned that out. I wrote an entire blog article first and like had it formatted. And it's sort of like the Aaron Francis approach to, let me take a month to 2 months and document all of my thoughts and do all this research before I hit record at all. Um, I think there's a good time for that, and there's a good time for the other two. I think that there are different learning abilities or learning styles. And I learn both ways too. So, whether it's somebody that is super profoundly intelligent and can teach it, I've never seen, I don't think I've seen Jeffrey Way put out a video where he just kind of, I guess he does like, let's just figure this out together. He has done that several times. And then he does some videos where he's like, look, I'm going to teach you this concept. And he already knows everything he's going to show you and what problems he's going to run into along the way and how to overcome those.
Do you not think that his like, we're going to learn this together is sort of planned out?
I think to some degree, but he even hits, some errors along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I never really thought of that. I think that maybe I'm naive. I'm like, he's learning too. I'm learning too. Let's learn it together. Come on, Jeffrey.
I mean, it's
Maybe.
the perfect setup, isn't it? For like, you are learning, and he's put you on the same level. He's not like this know-it-all person
Right.
he's already got it figured out, and he's just like kneeling down to show us all mere mortals.
I
Like,
don't think so. I
this
don't
is
think
how
so.
I do.
Not my Jeffrey Way. He would never.
Please
He's
forgive
so
me,
good.
Jeffrey.
He's so good, man. I
Yeah, he
really
is.
strive to be a tenth of him. I mean, would be awesome. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, I don't know. I do know, like for me, I feel less comfortable. And as I started making more and more videos, I felt less comfortable being so ad hoc as I was in the beginning. But if you look at the views on my channel and the subscribership for per video, those are the ones that did the best.
I'm not going to do that. It's gonna make me feel sad about my own videos.
I'm not any dude. I, there's nothing there, not yet, not yet. But I think AI can lead the way, and I think that actually, one of the things that I'm trying to get to now in the book, in Al's book, is he builds out a marketing like guru. He builds out like an agent that is there to help you with your marketing
Oh,
and just to say like what should I do this week to boost my channel, or what should I do to, what kind of tweets should I, and it puts things on your calendar. It'll email you every day at 9 o'clock in the morning of things that you need to do for the day. And it's really a marketing assistant. That's the word that he uses.
that's very
So
cool.
I think it's worth going down, because if I could use some help, boy, I could use some
Yeah,
help. You know, I think we all
yeah,
feel that
yeah.
way. Even if you're just toying
Yeah.
around with this stuff to build out ideas, or just some things that could help you on your day-to-day stuff, right? To keep you on point and on track for whatever it is. And you could tell it what is good and what is bad, and you can keep refining the expectations that you have for it. So we'll see.
Well,
On
I
that,
look forward to seeing what you build and watching your videos.
well, maybe this
You've
time
got to
next
do.
week.
You've said it now. Yeah, you've got to do it now.
This time next week. How about that? On that note,
Thanks, man. That was a great episode. I really enjoyed it.
yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. If you enjoyed it as well, please like and subscribe. Video, the tweets, all of that stuff. Share it with friends, whoever you think might enjoy this too. That would be amazing for us. And next week, come back and we're going to listen to Shane tell us all about Apple Intelligence.
Or the
Right?
lack thereof.
Nice one. See ya.
Later.